speaker. He definitely knows what he's thinking about when he puts his head to it, and he has some of the most phenomenal ideas that I'm sure he will definitely add to you guys' life. So I'd like to introduce my most welcomed friend, Mr. Rory Ditcham.
So we put this one here.
Rory, can you chop the pen?
You can get a pen?
Yes, please.
Alright, so, how's everyone doing tonight? Good? Yeah? Really? That's all you're doing? Just like good? You're not doing good?
Yeah. Good.
No? There we go, okay. So, you guys obviously know that we're doing the talking series at the moment. So we've done telling, we've done archiving, we have done listening, knowing, and what's the last one that I'm forgetting? Can't remember. Identifying? Yeah, so we've done identifying as well, which was presented by the lovely Tylers. So tonight we're going to be doing the N of talking, which is nailing. So you've probably heard throughout that I've created this series, and I decided that I would probably better off be doing an asset tonight. So we're going to be starting off tonight. I know you guys have just settled down from an amazing game, but we're going to get up and do a quick activity. So, does anyone not have one of these pens or a slip of paper?
I need a slip of paper.
Awesome. So, yeah, I'm going to
I have
get
some paper.
2 litres.
Who's pen?
James, if you could quickly just come up on Mary. Yep. Could you just, if you haven't got a pen or a piece of paper, can you please just put your hand up and the leader will give you it? So you guys are probably wondering why you've got your pen. You're probably wondering why you've got a pen and a piece of paper. Well, the simple answer is that you guys are going to silently just write down what's bothering you the most in about 1 or 2 words. So don't share it with everyone, don't write your name on it, just write it on the paper and then scrunch it up in any way you want. If you want to fold it, if you want to scrunch it, just scrunch it, fold it, whatever. So for the next minute or so, we're just going to be doing that.
Wait, what are you writing?
So we're just writing listen up. So we're just going to be writing the number one thing in our lives at the moment that's bothering us the most in about 1 or 2 words. If you can't sum it up in 1 or 2 words, don't worry. Just put one or just put a sentence or something, and then all you're doing is scrunching it up, folding it up, doing whatever, and then holding onto it. Just for now. So quickly, come on. Yes, James. Oh yes, James hasn't got it. Yeah, so you just scrunch it up. There you go. And kill it. I believe young James might be missing. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Rory.
Just one, just a paper.
I'll drop memory out of the way.
Rory,
Yeah.
just clarify that the word is about what we're annoyed at or we're struggling with.
Struggling with, annoyed at, an emotion that we might be struggling with at the moment. Just something that's not really niggling us, you know, that we're not really happy about.
Thank you, Rory.
All good. So, put your hand up if you've written your word or 2 words. Okay. So I'm just going to quietly explain while everyone else is finishing off their 1 or 2 words what the next bit of the activity is. So I'm going to get 3 lovely young lads to come up the front in a second, and they are going to have one of these buckets. And the last one, ooh, there's buckets. So, all they're going to do is you're going to line up into 3 lines in front of them, and you're just going to put your piece of paper into their bucket. If it falls out of the bucket for some reason, leave it there, and then just go and sit down somewhere in the room, wherever you want, and just get settled again. So, could I please get the 3 lovely lads up the front? So I asked to volunteer the floor.
Thank
you.
You look sexy.
That's alright. And then 3. Okay, so if I can get you guys just to stand just in front of the podium. And then, may all who have done your thing, just please stand up and form a line in front of one of the 3 boys. Yes, you do.
I'll give it to Tyler.
Oh, hold up, big son. Oh, put that ball in there.
James, make sure some fall out.
Taking cash for money.
There you go.
Taking cash for money.
So once I've finished this activity, I'll start again. So I'll tell you then. Put it in.
I'm so empty.
Put it there. Just there. Done. Leave it. Come on, let's go. Come on, doesn't matter. Just put it in. Come on, let's go. Let's go. There we go.
Taking cash for money. Taking cash for money. Taking cash for money.
Scotch it up. Just scotch it up. There you go, tuck it in. There you go, done. Okay.
Oh, where's my pen?
Jesus.
Taking cash for money.
Okay. So, has everyone put their paper in? Yeah? No? We've got a couple in there. So you just need to write your biggest problem on it at the moment. One or two words, and then put it in the bucket. Too late. Oh, okay. So we have these. So we have. I'm sorry. I'm just going to budge in here. 3 lovely lads here, and they each have a bucket full of everyone's issues or problems that they've accumulated over the last couple of days. It might be the last couple of weeks. It might be the last couple of months or something. Now, as you can see here, Josh's bucket, how full is your bucket, Josh?
It's about half, maybe a quarter.
No, half, maybe a quarter? So he's probably unloaded some of his emotions onto someone else recently, or he's talked about them or written them down or something, which has emptied some of them out of his bucket. So his bucket's only about a quarter full. Now, young Tyler, how big is your bucket?
It's almost at the brink.
Oh, so you've had a lot of people come up and talk to you. And
Yeah.
There's some really big stuff, or hey, a lot of little small stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
And young James, you seem to be a bit overflowing, mate.
Absolutely full, mate.
Oh, you are chockers?
No more room. No.
All right, so thank you so much, guys. You guys can sit down. Just put your buckets. Good job, guys. Everyone, give them a clap. Hey, what are you doing? So, just a heads up. At the end of the night, you guys, I'll put the bucket of pens up just on this desk, and you guys can just put your pens in there. But what just happened then was, as you kind of might have caught on, you guys all decided to give Tyler, James, and the lovely Josh all of your emotions. And if you guys kind of saw what was happening, your bucket was like James's bucket. You guys kind of noticed that his bucket was kind of overflowing, but you guys were such in the moment that you just kind of threw it there, and it kind of started to keep on overflowing. Well, the kind of thing about that is that James had actually just, he might have just been told all these things that were really just starting to really pile up, and he's actually gone into emotional overload. So don't worry, you guys, it's not your guys' fault, right? So when someone's in this situation, it's really important just to actually look at them and make sure they're not in emotional overload. Because if you're trying to tell someone in emotional overload, someone who is in emotional overload, it's just like putting a brick wall to a brick wall. It's just 2 brick walls. Nothing's going to get through. So, and no one's needs are being met. So, lovely Tyler, if you would like to start the live stream. Hey guys, so if you guys are just joining us on the live stream, we've just completed an activity in which I had 3 buckets up the front, and we have just explained how the buckets, one of them was overflowing, and that represents someone in emotional overload. So, and what happened is that people kept on giving them emotions, and it kept on overflowing out of their bucket. Now, the easiest way to avoid this would be to just put it in someone else's bucket. Like Josh's bucket was there. His bucket was, as he said, about half a quarter full. You could have just put it in his bucket. You had 3 different friends or family or services that you could have given your information to, but you chose to give it to James. And because you gave it to James, he couldn't give you any answers. He couldn't give you what you wanted from that. And that's what I'm going to try and talk about tonight. How you can process emotional overload, how you can nail your emotions, and different strategies and ways you can set goals to achieve that. So I'm going to start off by talking about a little thing called like the 5 friend principle. You might have heard it before, how you can, in an entire lifetime, you can only truly have 5 people in your life that you're fully influenced by and that fully accept you. Well, that's kind of also true when you're thinking about emotions, because it's never good to just have one person. It's never good just to have James, because if James is overflowing, then he's just going to be sitting there and wondering what he's going to do with all this information. Whereas if you had James, Josh, and Tyler, you could have gone, okay, I'm not going to tell James because I can clearly see he's already upset, but I'm really upset as well. So I'm going to go tell Josh, or I'm going to go tell Tyler this, so that I'm feeling okay, but they're not also going into overload. So the 5 people you need to tell, it could be a family member, a trusted family member, a friend, or cousin, someone down the street, your neighbour even. But make sure that they're trusted and that they're not going to backstab you and tell everyone in the school, everyone in the neighbourhood about it. And another 2 great places are something like local councils or doctors, because local councils and doctors can actually refer you to other youth services such as Bridge Builders or other places where you can get other help, or even just have a chat with someone. So that's what I'm going to be drawing into our first little acronym of the night, or little word of the night, which is walkie-talkie. So if you guys want to bring out your phones or whatever to take notes, feel free to. But walkie-talkie, if you guys don't know, it's this little device that you can call people through. We use them at our events. But previously in the asset talking, we've done the talkie bit, you know? We've done TALKI, or talkie. We have talked about it. We've identified what our emotions are, and we now know what they are and how to deal with them. We've identified them, and we've archived what each meaning is, and we've learnt from that. What do we do now? The simple answer is walkie. So instead of talkie-walkie, we could walkie-talkie. So we've now talked, but now what I'm going to be explaining tonight is how are we going to walk? Because walkie is the easiest way to...
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah, to walkie-talkie. So we've got so 4 key steps. If you've got any pens or paper you can want to write it down on, the 4 key steps that we're going to go through tonight is discovery, planning, setting goals, and discussing. Now this is like this loop that is evidential in our lives, that I've found. And the discovery bit is talkie. It is about how we discover what emotions we have, how we discover how we deal with them, but not how we deal with them, but discover what needs to be done in order to get ready to deal with them. Then we're going to go into the plan or set goals section, which is right now. So, setting goals. How do we set goals? I always go with the concept of plan or damn, because if you don't plan for your emotions, well, damn. So yeah, planning is essential for setting goals. It is preparing your mind for change. If you don't set a foundation for a skyscraper, it's going to tumble. So you've got to make sure that foundational plan is there. So who in this room, just put your hand up if you felt overwhelmed at any point. Good, pretty much everyone's put up their hand. That's good. So, just 1 or 2 people, just to say, how did you plan to get over it? Just 1 or 2 people, just simple 1 sentence. Anyone? No one? Oh yeah, James?
I suppose for me, to prevent my emotional overload, I saw a psychologist.
Yeah?
And sort of gave off all my emotions to them.
Yeah. Did anyone go talk to their mum or their dad or? Yeah. Best friend, family member? There's the 3 simple steps that we could take just to assist with when we are overwhelmed, which is simply ask for help, pacing your thoughts, and using problem-solving techniques. So, there are 3 simple things that we can do. Asking for help, everyone thinks, oh, I've done that. Have you? When I asked you how did you deal with it, everyone put up their hand that they've been overwhelmed, but no one really answered except for maybe James or one or two people, you know? Pacing yourself. Has anyone tried to think when they've got 1,000 minds through their work? Has anyone, if you're in an essay or something at school, tried to think of how, I'm going to cook this for dinner and then I'm going to go and sit on my bed and while they're also trying to write down all their essay and stuff? Yeah. It's kind of hard to think about both things at once though, isn't it? Because you get distracted. So distracting yourself while you're overwhelmed is just going to make you more overwhelmed. And lastly, problem-solving techniques can be used because problem-solving in essence is just solving problems. It's just the word backwards, same as walkie-talkie. And they can be used in order to find different strategies on how we can get un-overwhelmed. Or, as I like to say it, whelmed. So a little quote that I found when I was searching around this is, to feel different, we must do different. So in order for ourselves to feel different, we have to actually do something different at most points. Because if you've got to ask yourself things like this: are my needs being met in a conversation? When, let's say you go up to your mum and you're going to have a conversation about your emotions, and it's just ending in arguments every single time you do it. Like your mum, your dad, someone. Are your needs being met in that conversation? And more importantly as well, or just as importantly, are their needs being met? And if it's just continuing to end in arguments or someone being overwhelmed or someone feeling like they're in a cage or something, is this situation going to change without change? Is this situation going to change if you both stand your ground and say, I'm not going to do anything, or no, I'm not going to change either? Is anything going to change? Is it just going to continue to end in argument after argument? You've got to take back to pacing yourself. You've got to take that like a 1 second to think about it. How will it change in 1 second if I apply change? How will it change in a minute, an hour, a day, a month? How will it change in my life if I change this one thing that I'm doing in this one conversation? What will stopping this continuous chain of arguments do in my life? Just imagine Maroondah Highway, the big highway thing that a lot of people use around here. And it's full of traffic, and you want to go from, let's say, Bridge Builders to Chirnside. If it's full of traffic, it's going to take you a long time to get from Bridge Builders to Chirnside. And let's say that traffic represents negativity. If you're feeling overwhelmed, and you stay in that traffic, you're just going to continue to lead to a negative outcome because you're going to be stuck in that heavy traffic. But if you use side streets, if you use other pathways that might take a lot longer to find, take a lot longer to do, but they end up in a positive outcome, isn't that better? Isn't that better to take the side streets around all that traffic and avoid that massive stream of negativity? Because that massive stream of traffic, it seems so simple because it's just from here to Chirnside along this one strip of road. But through that one strip of road, you're going through all this negativity. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. An easy way to deal with this is to stop. It's an easy way to start a plan as well. Stop, you might not realise, but it's an acronym. So if you've got your pens and papers out, you can just quickly go through it. The S for stop is to stop. And don't act instantly. So instead of going through and just going down the highway, just stop and take a breath. And that goes into the next one. That's T. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. Do whatever. Have a breather.
It works.
Observe. Observe what you're thinking in that moment. What are you doing? Are you sitting in that highway thinking, I could go down here or I could take a side street, but it's just from here to Chirnside, so why not? And lastly, P. Pull back. Zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because if you looked at the bigger picture of that highway, you realise that it would actually be a lot quicker just to go around the side streets, and you'd avoid all of that negativity. So that's just a couple of simple steps that we can take just to plan and set a small foundation for nailing our emotions and setting up goals. So now that we've planned for the goals, What do we how do we set them? And I'm actually going to ask you guys. How do you guys set in your goals? Just one or two people. Just, anyone put your hand up? How do you set your goals in your life? Yeah?
Somewhere where you want to get to, something you want to achieve.
Yeah. So you look at something you want to achieve, and somebody you look at a destination.
Going a step further.
Going a step further, James.
I'll probably write it down, stick it somewhere where I look at it.
Write it down. Awesome. That's actually really cool. So, I've written down a couple of strategies as well, which were understanding ourselves. You can't set a goal for someone else because you don't understand how they think. So, understanding yourself is an amazing way to start to think about how can I set a goal that I will actually achieve, that I will actually go through with. Another one is being positive with our goals. If you're going to set a negative goal, you're going to get a negative outcome. So just set a positive goal. Specify what your goal is. If you're going to set a goal to raise a million 5-cent coins, then you might get 1,000,000 5-cent coins by the time you're 84. If you're going to set it by the end of next year, that's a lot more achievable, and you actually have a time frame, which goes into the next one, which is set time limits. Setting time limits is a great way to set goals because it gives you an achievable outcome. As Keely said, where do I go? Well, giving a time limit says I have to be there by this time. Breaking your goals down into smaller parts is another great way to look at goals. If you have a goal to raise that 1,000,000 5-cent pieces, breaking it down into 10,000 pieces per week, 5,000 pieces if you have 5 friends or something per month, is much easier to look at than 1,000,000 pieces. And lastly, write them down. Or second lastly, write them down. As James said, it's one of the best strategies for setting goals and actually dealing with emotions. Is just writing it down on a piece of paper or anything. And lastly, make record of your progress. If you don't make a record of your progress, you'll never know how far you've come. You'll never be able to physically see how far you've come with your goal. Your goal will seem endless. It will see that 2 years is 2 years away, rather than, as I've already gone past 1 month and I've already got, 15,000 coins. I'm already this far into it. Remember, the goals, they're not glue. When you're setting a goal, it's not going to just stick to your hand, it's not going to stick to your wall, it's not going to stick with you. It's a goal, it's a thought, it's something that's tangible, So intangible, I'd rather. You can get a goal and you can put it in one ear and out another, like words. If you write down and you remember and you use strategies to set your goal in your mind, it's going to stick with you, but not like glue, because you can still let it go. You can still change it, morph it, do whatever you want with it. At the end of the day, a goal is a goal. If it isn't working, then have a look at it. Zoom out, look at the bigger picture. Find the side streets to lead to a more positive outcome. Something I found when I was researching this was where thoughts create feelings, feelings create behavior, and behavior creates thoughts. So with that, I'll break it down a little bit more. If you think positively, then you'll end up feeling a lot more positive. And if you're feeling a lot more positive, your behavior will be a lot more positive and calm. And if your behavior is positive and calm, it will create more positive thoughts. But vice versa, let's say you're angry with someone, you're really furious as a feeling, but then you start acting angrily. Whether you like to or not, you're starting to act angrily because that's what the feelings create. Feelings create behavior. And then your behavior create negative thoughts. It becomes a really vicious, angry, and negative cycle. Yet again, trying to find the side streets to get out of that cycle and back into thinking positively is another great step to take. So, if you're feeling really overwhelmed at any point, you've probably experienced a fight, flight, or freeze response. Which a lot of people, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're in a fight response, a lot of people will look at it and see that it's anger and not see that you're just really distressed or see that you're really hurting. They'll just see it as you're being angry in a corner or you're angry at someone when you're having a conversation, but they're not realizing that you're actually really overwhelmed. Has anyone in here ever had that, where they're just so overwhelmed that they go into a fight, flight, freeze response, but people mistake it for their emotion? Yeah? Yeah, seeing a couple of hands. Awesome. And it's a really hard thing to deal with. But lastly, when you're setting your goals, you have to take time and dedication and care. As I said before, your goals are thoughts. They're not going to stick with you forever. They're not going to be with you forever. They shouldn't be with you forever. But if you don't take time, care, and dedication with them, they're going to be just like another thought. Time, care, and dedication create a sense of belonging to yourself, and it can really help you go through with goals. And lastly, and very lastly, is the refresh button. Have any of you guys ever gone onto your webpage and it's not working? Just press that refresh button, yeah? So the refresh button in an emotional sense or in a goal setting sense is a simple way of saying, okay, I've tried this goal out, it's really not working for me. I'm not going down a good, I'm going back to the highway every time. I try and do all these side street things, but it's not working for me. Click that refresh button. Unset your goal. Go back to discovery. Have a look at your situation again from a broader perspective. Have a look at it from a different perspective. Ask someone else for their perspective on what's happening. And then go back through the steps. Go reset your plan, reset your goals. And if that's still not working, hit that refresh button again. It doesn't go away, it stays on that web page forever. You can continue to hit it until you hit the right side street and you hit the right way to go. Okay, so I'm going to quickly move on from goals, but to the next step of our amazing discussion, which is discussion. It's discuss. Okay, so when you've got your goal, you've got your plan, your goal is all set up, you already know what your emotions are. What do you do now? You know what you can do, but how do you achieve that goal? Easiest way to start is just to have a discussion with someone. And again, go back to those 5 people. Your friends, your family. Go back to other, your neighbor, go to your doctor, go to someone. Just have a discussion. And a lot of people get really angsty about that because it's an emotional discussion. And the simplest way to plan for an emotional discussion is going back to actually when you're going in primary school English, which is who, what, when, where, why. Very simple. Who are you having the discussion with? Is it someone who's trusted? Is it someone who's not trusted? Is your discussion something, that will agree with that person or disagree with that person and cause upset? What are you discussing? Are you discussing the weather? Are you going to start off your discussion and say, okay, so the weather's really nice, and then get lost in other conversation and completely forget that you're actually there to talk to them about your emotions? And then when? When do you discuss it? If that person's at work from 9 till 5, it's alright. If that person's at work from 9 till 5, then discussing it at that time could actually make them overwhelmed because they see that you're upset. But okay, but at that time, that person's at work and they're probably already feeling a little bit stressed by their work. So discussing it outside of that 9 till 5, maybe let's say at dinner time at 6 or 7 with your family member, can not only make it so that they're not going to get so overwhelmed with their work, but also see that you're distressed, but also make it so that you're being heard. Where are you discussing it? Are you discussing it on your phone? Are you discussing it as a text? Or are you discussing it in face-to-face? The best way to discuss emotions is face-to-face, because you can see if the other person's overwhelmed, and you can identify that. And then you can choose to go talk to someone else, rather than with the bucket activity, putting it all on James. Texting, I think, is one of the worst ways, personally, because you cannot see in a text, even just in how the person's tone, how the person's speaking, if they're crying, you can't tell that through the words on the page. How many people have lied when they're texting? How many people have said that they're okay, but they're not? You can do it so easily, but try saying that in a phone conversation or face-to-face. It's a lot harder. And it's a lot easier for someone else to realise that they're overwhelmed in a face-to-face conversation than over the phone. Because most people can hold themselves over the phone for 5 or 10 minutes. Discussing it is a great way to just reinforce your goals. In the bucket activity, if we had a discussion with James, we would have realised that he was already overwhelmed, and we would have been able to figure out that all we had to do is go talk to Josh or talk to Tyler and tell our things to them. and then we would have had a much more positive outcome from that. And then the final step, which was in our original thing, which is taking action. Now this is kind of a funny step because once you've kind of discussed it, you've set your goals, you've found out what your emotions are, you've pretty much done everything there is to do. Taking action is that last step, and it will most likely come naturally to you, and it's more or less case by case. You know, you don't go down to your doctor and ask for flour and milk and maybe a couple of eggs to make a cake. So taking action, but you might go to the supermarket for that. That's where it's case by case. You don't go talk to someone like James who's overwhelmed, or you don't go talk to someone like James about some female problems, or you don't go talk to, let's say, Susan about some boy problems. Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah. However, I'm not going to just stand up here and say, it's case by case, that's it, you're done, good night, blah, blah, blah. Because that would be kind of rude of me. So, I've got, I went to Google and I went type, and Google just gave me this gunky, all messed up, all like 15 different opinions, look at this, look at that, and I'm like, what is this? So, I've created something awesome, which is Rory's radical rendition of Google Gunk. So, this is your time to bring out your phone. These are just strategies to help you identify what your goals are, or go from the goals, the setting plan, the discussion plan, into your taking action. So, first step, which you probably heard a little bit tonight, which is writing it down. Writing it down on paper is the easiest way to make sure that your goals are being set. You can put that piece of paper, if it's a goal, on your wall. If it's an emotion, you can burn it, you can scrap it, whatever. Get that emotion away. Make sure that you're not overwhelmed, because if you're overwhelmed, you won't be able to do that whole planning step. The second one, which is share it with a trusted friend or family. If you're not going to share it with, like your school bully or someone like that, or Joe Blow down the road. You have to try and make sure that you know that person and have that discussion with them. The third point is external services. So there's a whole heap of people, like I was talking about earlier, people like your local council. But your local council has this massive amount of information about pretty much any location on how you can go and find different help, so psychologists and things. And a lot of people don't realise it, but local councils will do anything for anyone who's in an emotional distress or something. They'll shut down their office just to try and make sure that one need is met. Then my fourth point, express is greater than suppress. You don't want to suppress your emotions. Suppressing your emotions creates an overwhelmed environment. Google actually recommended me to suppress them, and I'm like, why? But yeah, expressing your emotions is a great way. If you feel socially anxious, doesn't matter. Social anxiety is fine, and if you're feeling that, then avoid it at that time if it's overwhelming. But expressing your emotions, whether that's crying in like a toilet or something because you don't want to make sure anyone sees it, so you're still that big tough burly man or anything, do it. Expressing your emotions is the easiest way to get through that. 5. Look at your environment. If your environment is toxic, then you're going to probably be thinking toxic, then you're going to be behaving toxic, and then you're going to be feeling toxic. If your environment is not healthy, you're not going to be healthy. As we've seen with pollution and stuff, our environment's getting unhealthy, our animals are getting unhealthy, and it's making us unhealthy. And the last one, which is point 6, I'm actually going to start off with a small joke. So I'm going to say a joke, and you guys will probably all understand what I'm doing. So, knock knock. Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow.
Moo! So that brings me to my 6th point, which is laughter. Laughter is the best way to make yourself feel good. You cannot be angry at someone and physically show anger if you're laughing your head off. Alright? Laughing makes you so much happier. And try and laugh and have a big pout on your face. You look kind of funny, and then you start laughing at yourself. So yeah, that's Rory's radical rendition of Google Gunk.
Well done.
So that kind of sums up nailing. I ended up having like all this ton of information and resources that's been compacted down. So if you guys need to have a chat with someone about any further information on anything we've discussed tonight, I'm happy to talk with you about that, or even your pack leaders might have a chat with you. Or any of the leaders will probably know. Anyway, that concludes the night, and I hope you've all had a good night.
Good job, mate. Good job. I think for a young fella having a crack at public speaking in front of peers for the first time and having such a laid out format, mate, that was absolutely brilliant. Let's put it together, folks. When I was doing